Everybody, welcome to the Bill and Kap Show. It's Jordan Capper. We got Gabe on today, and this is a special episode because one, Gabe is my cousin, and two, he's taken a journey that I think you guys are just gonna get a huge kick out of. You know, me, to talk about me during the show before the guest, how polite, ER doctor, right? You all know this, and I did the house hack to single family, to multifamily, to commercial. Well, Gabe has done a little bit different of a story. I mean, Gabe, I'll let you do the brief interview, and then let's rip it.
We'll get
'Cause
into
I'm
it.
so excited.
Guys, good to have you on. So basically, that was super background for anybody who doesn't know who I am. Married to your cousin. We met in driver's ed almost a decade and a half ago. Went to Baldwin Wallace, wrestled there. Went to then became a fireman. Me and you have always mused around. Hey, let's do a deal together. Like we'd always talked Burr. We talked self storage, and really how I got to where we're at now. Right. I tagged you on a Facebook post that I was just joking about. And you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, this is going to just skip ahead, right? But I remember this was my brother's wedding, and where were we drinking at some random bar or something like that? And
yeah, it was after the rehearsal, and we were like, let's go out. It was the day before.
That's when I first was getting into arm wrestling too, I think. And I tried to teach you arm wrestling.
You saw these babies, and you're like, that's fine.
And I just remember talking to you, and you had not done any real estate deals. And I think I had the single family, a couple multifamilies. I forget if I was really doing self-storage at scale. Maybe I had been an LP at that point, or we were doing due diligence on one of the deals. Mm-hmm. And I remember just talking to you, and you just knew all the lingo. You had done all this research. I'm like, what the hell? What is up with Gabe?
Yeah. So I'd always been wanting to do it, and I worked, one of my guys on my shift, shout out Don Smith, I talked to him every shift about it and read some books and just really did a lot of research on how to get started. And that's where my knowledge came from.
I just did a podcast interview before this where I was on a guy's show, and he asked me this question that they always ask, and I don't have a really good answer. The question is, what would you say to yourself, 15 years ago? And it's like, oh, I wouldn't change anything. I'm so happy. I get that, but that's not the point of the question, right? And so that's what everybody had said to him. So he changed it. He's like, well, if you were talking to somebody else, okay, what would you say to them to get where you are now or to grow and learn? And I hadn't come up with a really good answer until I was on that show, and I just thought, I think the first thing to do is to really just consume information and then act. And I mean, that's literally just your story, right?
Yeah, no, I consumed. And then, like I said, I joined all these Facebook groups and really saw what was going on, did a lot of reading and talked to you a bunch. And then my act was really just almost, it wasn't trolling, but like, I was just like, it was a deal. It was $1.2 million deal. I was like, oh, no way. I was just commented on it. I was like, And then you're like, let's do it. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it. And to anybody listening, so Gabe, came on board with this deal, right? So it's a 2 self-storage facilities, $1.2 million deal right by you. So you have the ability to kind of do boots on the ground. And there's a lot of ways to partner with people. We've gone through the Capper deal divider a little bit, all the different members of the team and how a deal is put together. The person who finds it, the financing, the guy that co-signs on it, the guy that operates it, the guy that brings it across the finish line, all these different things. And when you came on board, you brought us a deal, right? Yeah. But then you also just really started doing everything. And then I was like, oh my God, Gabe's a beast. Let's bring him on board. And now we're doing syndication deals together. You're doing the operations for all of our facilities. And it's just this like huge, having you on the team has completely changed the dynamic of the team, because now we have something that clearly was missing that maybe we didn't fully realize yet, which is this executor, this person to go back and forth with. And of course you bring a lot of energy too.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's what Ben put on our website. Gabe brings in a good laugh and keeps morale high. So that's
Yeah,
really, I mean, that's how I try to live. Like, you know what I mean? If stuff's serious, right? But like at the same time, like you gotta be happy to do it. You're not gonna function well if you're not happy or there's too much stress. So that's how I am at work. That's how I try to be with all you guys. I mean, there's lots to be happy about while you're putting stuff
I
to work.
agree. I agree, and I talk about this all around on Facebook and stuff too. But the whole don't mix family and business, and I right? It's like
You hear that? Our families think that. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, when if you're honest, really, it's honesty, right, and trust. Honesty and trust. What else, that's what makes a good marriage. That's what makes a good partnership. Is
yeah,
be right. Like, what's it matter if you're going to be respectful, be honest, and be trustworthy? Like, that's all you need to do. And I don't think really there's ever a problem. I think we live by that.
yeah, and it's there's a trust but verify, and that gets into that actually goes into our development, right? There's a lot to learn there when it comes to building these facilities and verifying all the underlying assumptions. There's the trust but verify in the deal, but then
Hmm.
there's also there can be a strategic play in literally just trusting somebody when it comes to doing deals like this. And I think that's something that we have that we are both well aware of, and it's
Yeah.
such a good even ramping you on board, right? Like getting you involved in the deals. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Gabe's going to take on board some of the deals that we already had done, right?
Yeah.
And let's give Gabe this equity for doing this. And it's like that all takes time and
Hmm.
legal framework, and it's kind of honestly very annoying and distracting. And so it's like, Gabe, no, we're gonna give you the equity. We got other stuff to
Yeah.
do. It's not this huge time pressure to do it.
Yeah, and that's where the trust comes in. It's just like, all right, yeah, let's rock. I'm gonna get the work done. I know we're all gonna take care of each other, and that's all that matters, man.
Yeah, it's good. And alternatively, right, some folks that we've done business with that aren't the most trustworthy, right?
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's
and the and the thing with that though is to say, like, okay, we know what real trust is, and we know what, okay, we trust this person, but we trust that we're going to also set up all the legal framework, all the numbers and everything, like perfect. um
yeah. That's just
yeah,
part of it, right? You just have to be able to with those people, like you said, you have the contract tight, so then you can trust them to do their job, but you can't trust them to get fricky on like.
yeah, it happens, right? So tell me, I think this is good for a lot of folks. So you're a firefighter,
Mhm.
do all this schooling, you have all these skills, these interpersonal skills, and then tell me about your journey, because I don't know if I really talked to you about this before. What were you learning? How were you learning these things? How long did it take? I mean,
Yeah,
you probably, I'm sure you've listened to, before doing these deals, hundreds of hours of podcasts or videos or
yeah, man. I
interact.
mean, just lots and lots. So lots of talking to other people that have done it. My one buddy, like I said earlier, he's probably got 4 to 8 houses. That's where my burn knowledge came from, right? The buy, rehab, rent, repeat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Refinance, repeat. But we just talked for hours. I can't tell you how many times. So a little people don't know. Firemen love after dinner having a little cigar and some coffee after dinner, right? Late night little cigar break. And I can't tell you. I mean, we were stationed together for 6 months once. We talked every night on shift, hours outside. Um, then the online stuff of just looking up different things on videos and podcasts, hours, hundreds of
Yep.
hours. Like
Yep.
it's probably I what Ben say the one time, like from that deal, it's like getting a PhD in business
Yeah.
without like it's just you got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
You
that's the
do.
last thing you want to do is go do something and not at least have some knowledge. Like I have you guys that can kind of crutch me along the things I don't know, but it's
Yep.
out. I mean, podcasts, books, talking to other people. I mean, God bless YouTube. Like you don't even need to go see a mechanic anymore. So Like you just YouTube everything, and it's
Yeah, it gets. I think about this a lot when, coming from the education background, right?
mhm.
And thinking about how people learn and how you learn what's the truth, but also how you like ingrain something in your brain,
Mhm.
right? The one example we use is doing soil studies, right? And I had mentioned to
Yeah.
you guys on one of our deals where the soil studies, we just kind of had glossed that over, right? And we're like, okay, we think there might be a soil issue, and we weren't having it front of mind, but then we started to realize, oh, hey, we really need to get right on this, and we do these soil studies. It seems like something little and not this big deal until you realize, like, no, this has to go in our policies and procedures, and we call it an ATT, an add to Trello. So we add it to our list,
Hmm.
and it's like, all right, now it's in our list. This will never get missed again, and it's kind of like internalizing that knowledge and really letting it soak in because okay, YouTube's good, podcast experience, but you also talk to people that don't give good advice,
Well,
right?
let's think about our first deal, right? This whole learning, freaking the wholesaler didn't. He's like, I've never had this list of due diligence before. Like this is crazy. Well, my man, you gotta be a little crazy to be good at something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the kind of frame there is, and this is a problem we see a lot, right? It's we go to these deals, you talk to the seller, sometimes there's a wholesaler, sometimes there's a broker involved, and then it's like, okay, the seller wants to sell. Oh, okay, good. Well, we're going to finance it as you do
Mhm.
almost every deal. Nobody is buying cash. And then you go to the bank, they're like, well, we need the P&Ls for the past 3 years. We need the tax returns for the past 3 years. We need all, the bank statements, and we need all these other studies and everything that goes into underwriting one of these deals. The bank has to underwrite as well. And then the seller's like, well, I don't want to show you my bank accounts. Like, that doesn't sound good, and running into those issues can be kind of tough. And you dealt with all that, right? You were kind
Yeah,
of in charge of the seller relations.
yeah, that was almost like my. I don't want to say interview, but like that was like my trial run as being a partner. I did most of the due diligence stuff. Well, and it helped, right? I don't think we mentioned Worcester is where I work, and I live 30 minutes away from there. I know we talked about it was close, and boots on the ground stuff, but I kind of already knew the area. But there was a lot of digging I had to do. I had phone calls, texts. I mean, just all that stuff you got to dig into. And some of the people were like, "It seems like a little much." I'm like, "Well, if you want to success, you have to vet it, right?" Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just to me
absolutely.
like that goes back to the bad advice, like I was saying. Like, well, I don't do any of that. Well, maybe you should.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very good deal, right? It was already up and running. It was one of these value add deals. So 1.2 million, kind of all in price with everything, and then it was a mom and pop run facility, kind of your classic what you want to
Yeah,
go for, right? With the value
yeah.
add not necessarily being expansion, but the value add being
Management
improvements, right?
and
Yep,
management.
management.
I mean, dude,
And
I wish I had the book with me right now. I don't have it. It's at
it's
Pat's
such a
house.
good,
Oh,
yeah.
Pat's house, dude.
Hmm.
Next, just for funsies one day, I might have to bring it on the show and just use it as a coaster or
Yeah,
something. I mean,
yeah,
it was
that
just all
thick.
written, and God bless, like God bless them. That was how they did it. But I mean, how many units did we come across that we were like, "Who's in this unit?" No
Yeah.
clue.
Yep. Yep. And a lot of leg work. And then
Uh,
even, you dealing with the seller relations, right? The seller was getting more and more upset. He's getting, what do these guys want? And he starts really to push back. And
well,
then
that
it
comes
took,
back to communication, right? I mean, as soon as God bless them, but as soon as we took the middleman out, how quick did that go?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of digging into that dynamic and you understanding the seller and the broker, the realtor, and knowing that maybe this realtor is actually kind of holding things up or not communicating who we are effectively. And
Right.
so in the seller's mind, he thought we were these jerk offs just trying to pinch him for every penny.
He
And
thought you guys were some douche doctors, and then here I was just, I was just like, hey man, no, we're just trying to make sure we're not buying a pile of crap, right? Like we.
Yeah,
And
I
he
remember.
understood once I explained it to him. But that's what it took, right? I had to talk. And that's if you can take one thing out of any advice anybody will ever give you, relationships get you everywhere. Relationships, people like, no, you know the whole saying, like, it's not about what you know, who you know. It's not necessarily that. It's just people are people. Just talk to them. They
Hmm.
want relationships, like you said. They didn't. To him, we were some random jerk offs. We could have just been, I don't know, the Walmart of storage, just
Yep,
trying to buy
yep,
buy his thing and try and nickel and dime. It was like, no, man, we're just
yeah.
a family business that we're trying to make sure we're buying the right stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even remember he ghosted us at one point, right? That like communications had broken down.
Yeah,
And I think I came up with this idea because there was no getting through to him. So this was before we had that direct
yeah,
line of communication. And he's like, I'm not dealing with these guys, right? They want all this stuff. I'm not showing a P&L, my tax returns,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. He didn't even want to show us the
Rent
rent
roll.
roll,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And then so I said, you know what, Gabe, why don't you just send him a letter? And so you wrote this very heartfelt letter, right?
yeah. Yeah, I wrote him a letter. And was just like, "Hey, man, like I don't know, like I really want to buy the facility. Like this is my start into the real estate stuff. I knew from just him being in the town where I work, he's a big businessman. And I was just like, hey, man, like we all got to start somewhere. Like, and it was really true. Like it was all true. And then he called me like a couple days later once he got it, and just we talked. And I was like, he's like, well, he told the middleman guy. I'm not trying to use his name, but the middleman guy he's like he was just like he told me it was done, and then remember he said he told me the deal was done, and he goes, "Can I manage the facility for you instead?"
Oh my gosh.
So it
Yeah.
goes to that
No.
trust thing, right? You don't know who you can trust, who you can't trust. I mean,
Yeah, that was such a good maneuver. That is something for like the ages. You sending the certified letter
with a picture of me,
signed.
my wife, my child, and my dog.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's like it wasn't just
No,
a maneuver. It was real.
legit.
It
Yeah,
was legit, and that's what it took for this guy because he had ghosted us, right? And the only way I remember we were talking about this, I'm like, I don't know how to get a hold of him. You can go to his house, and you're like, I don't know. That sounds a little sketch. What about a certified letter? And so you
yeah,
sent a certified, handwritten, right? Did you
yeah.
type it out? Handwritten letter with the picture of the dog and the baby, and that's what took it across the finish line. And that's and then of course things went smoothly after that because
Yeah.
there
I did tell
wasn't
him.
yeah there wasn't animosity, there wasn't an issue. He just saw us as something that we weren't, and once we broke that barrier down, that was great. I just
That
love that story.
it was so good because like because then even because so full circle, right? Full details. Pat, or my father-in-law, is also in on it with us, right? He's some big boots on the ground guy.
Hmm.
Um, he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, I'm handling it," and he just kind of let me handle it, and you guys let me handle it, and all the time he's just like, "What's?" I said, well, "I don't know. I haven't heard from him in a while." And we had this lane. We had a Ben, our bulldog of a contract writer, had us so much time in there for to really be able to do that, and that was so important because it just could really take me talking to this guy a couple times
Yeah.
on the phone, um, meeting him in person. That was such a
I
fun.
What did you get, pizza, or what was that?
The first time meeting him was while I was on duty. Remember?
I honestly, I don't
Uh,
remember all the details of that. No.
oh well, that was just we met. Saw him while I was working on shift one day.
Oh, got
He
it.
recognized me. Talked to him for a little bit, and he was like, "Hey, my buddy." I'm like, "What?"
That's good, man. Yeah. No, it's important having these relationships, and
I told him we
um,
go get pizza and stuff. I said, "Hey, let's go get a beer. Let's go get pizza." So yeah, we'll do it once we're done with this. He's like, and then he actually had to go out of town. So then I spent a couple different times meeting the other owner's wife at Starbucks a couple times to iron everything out.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I just knew you were handling it, and that, yeah, I didn't know any of that. That was our other deal that fell through. This was before you heard some of it. You know, the one in Florida, we were working this deal. Ben and I worked this deal for like 6-8 months, and that was the same kind of thing where the seller, it was a decent deal. It had a little risk in it. It was in a flood zone, but in a very developed area. And we had kind of hustled for this deal for a while, but it ended up not going through because I think the relationship between the two co-owners, we had only been dealing with one of the owners, and the other co-owner there's a lot of friction there. And so that same kind of thing, right? Like trying to get to the very root of who this seller is, why they want to sell, and in that case, there was like no getting around it because it was just a relationship between those two. But in this one, it was only you and kind of fixing everything. So yeah, thank you for an awesome 2-facility deal.
Now they're rocking, baby.
Yeah. Now they're rocking. And we're doing more deals, right? We're raising money right now for a syndication deal. So Gabe, firefighter to podcast listener to $1.2 million self-storage facility.
Yeah, I think I skipped a couple steps in there.
I think it's better to tell the story just like that. It's like you gotta craft a narrative a little bit. And
I skipped. I mean, and the way I did it was just education and just hustling.
Yeah. If you guys do want to invest, you can always reach out to me personally, Jordan at lanternlightcap.com or Gabe at lanternlightcap. That's lanternlightcap.com. That's our investing website. And as always, if you need any remote employees, you can check out mavensuccess.com. That's the other spin-off company where we help U.S. companies find remote employees. And Gabe knows all of them very well. He knows our whole remote crew. He's kind of like the godfather of all of our remote crew. So. Yeah, exactly. All right. Wish you all the very best. Thanks for attending the show.